There are ideas that change the world, but what if one of the most powerful, and maybe even one of the most dangerous, could be boiled down to just three little words? The chosen people. Let's really dig into that. Just think about the sheer weight of that claim for a second. For thousands of years, this single idea has been a source of incredible comfort for people in their darkest hours. And at the same time, it's been used to justify conquest and war. It's this wild paradox, right? An idea that has shaped destinies, created nations, and drawn lines in the sand all over the world. Okay, but here's the twist. This is the question that's going to drive everything we talk about today. What if that divine cornerstone wasn't divine at all? What if it was actually crafted by human hands, not as a message from the heavens, but as a brilliant and maybe desperate strategy for survival right here on Earth? All right, to even begin to tackle a question that big, we need a guide. And our guide is one of history's great intellectual rebels, the 17th century philosopher Baruch Spinoza. Now, this guy was a total outcast. He was excommunicated, called a heretic, all because he had the nerve to ask the questions that nobody else dared to even think. So here's the thing about Spinoza. He wasn't an atheist, not at all. He was actually in awe of the universe. But for him, God wasn't some king sitting on a throne picking favorites. God was the universe. God was the impartial, unchanging laws of reality itself, kind of like gravity. And think about it. Does gravity care if you're a good person? Nope, it just is. So for Spinoza, the idea that a perfect, infinite being would have human emotions like jealousy or play favorites, that just didn't make any sense. It was almost an insult to the idea of God. Okay, so armed with this powerful, logical way of thinking, Spinoza basically takes the whole idea of chosenness and puts it under a microscope. He breaks his investigation down into three clear steps, and this is going to be our roadmap for the rest of this journey. First, he's going to analyze the covenant as a political contract. Then, he'll show how it was a broken contract, and finally, he'll trace how it was reinvented into a portable identity. Let's get into it. So, step one, the political survival contract. Spinoza says, hey, let's just for a minute forget about this as a divine, mystical thing. He wants us to read the covenant like a political scientist, as a down-to-earth, pragmatic document designed for one crucial purpose: survival. To get this, you have to picture the world back then. We're talking 3,000 years ago. The ancient Levant, it was a tough neighborhood, to put it mildly. You're basically a small corridor of land stuck between these two superpowers, Egypt and Mesopotamia. The Hebrew tribes? They were scattered, they were weak, they had no central army, no unified laws. They were in real danger of being wiped out. What they needed more than anything was a powerful story, something that could unite them, give them discipline, and turn them from a bunch of scattered tribes into a nation that could actually survive. And that's exactly where the covenant comes in. Look at what it promises. It's not about heaven or the afterlife, not at all. It's about stuff you need right here, right now: fertile land, good harvests, and winning your next battle. Super practical, right? And what did it ask for in return? Simple: absolute loyalty. So what you're really looking at, Spinoza argues, is a constitution for a fragile new state, cleverly disguised as a message from God. Now this is what Spinoza saw as the smoking gun. This is huge. He looked at the structure of the Sinai covenant, the deal made with Moses, and compared it to the standard political treaties of the time, the kind Hittite and Assyrian kings made with the smaller nations they controlled. And guess what? The blueprint is identical. You've got the prologue, where the big boss lists his credentials. You've got the stipulations, the list of rules. And you've got the sanctions: blessings if you obey, curses if you don't. This wasn't some unique divine revelation. For Spinoza, this was just standard operating procedure for politics in the ancient world. And really, this quote from Spinoza just nails it. He pointed out that when you actually read the laws in the covenant, they're not all grand cosmic rules. A lot of them are about property disputes, about hygiene in the army camps, or, literally what to do if your ox gore is your neighbor's ox. A perfect, eternal being, Spinoza says, doesn't really care about mildew in your house. But you know who does? Human lawmakers trying to keep a society from falling apart. Okay, that brings us to step 2 in Spinoza's investigation. Now that he's established it looks like a human contract, he's going to treat it like one. He puts the covenant on trial, basically cross-examining it like a lawyer. And what he finds are, well, a lot of problems. Flaws, breaches, loopholes, you name it. First off, he looks at the main character on one side of the contract, God. And the way God is described in the text, well, it's not some perfect, unchanging force. This is a character who gets jealous, who flies into a rage, who literally regrets decisions he's already made. He even gets talked down and bargains with Moses. To Spinoza, these aren't the qualities of a perfect divine being. These are the fingerprints of human storytellers, modeling their God after the powerful, moody kings they knew. But maybe the biggest legal problem for the contract is this: it was never an unconditional, forever promise. The text is crystal clear about this. It says it over and over again. It's a simple if-then statement. If you obey me, then I will bless you. But if you don't, you'll be cursed and abandoned. That's not the language of some eternal divine destiny. That's the language of a two-way street, a fragile agreement that can absolutely be broken. And, well, history delivered the verdict, a brutal one. In 722 BCE, the Assyrians come in and just wipe the northern kingdom of Israel off the map. Then, in 586 BCE, the Babylonians destroy Jerusalem and the Holy Temple itself. The elite are dragged off into exile, the nation is gone. So if you're reading this like a contract, game over. The terms were broken, the pact is null and void, the story should have ended right there. Logically, based on everything we've just seen, the story of the chosen people should have been over. Finito. But it wasn't. And this leads us to what Spinoza thought was the most amazing part of the whole story. Step 3. How this idea was completely reinvented right in the middle of total and utter defeat. I mean, this is just an act of pure narrative genius. Think about it. You're a priest or a scribe in exile. Your world has been destroyed. Everything the covenant promised is gone. Do you give up? No. You perform an incredible mental jujitsu. You say, our suffering isn't proof that God has abandoned us. It's proof that he loves us. The argument became, a good father only disciplines the child he truly cares about. This defeat is actually confirmation of our special relationship. And you can see that incredible shift right here. The whole center of gravity for the identity moves. Before, it was all about physical things, a specific piece of land, a physical temple, a king and an army. After the exile, it becomes about things you can carry inside you. The book, the Torah, the law and the community that upholds it, and memory. Suddenly, your identity wasn't tied to a place anymore. It was portable. You could take it with you anywhere in the world. And what you end up with is something kind of intellectually bulletproof, an unfalsifiable idea. Think about it. If things are going great and you're prospering, well, that's proof you're chosen. But if things are terrible and you're suffering, that's also proof you're chosen, because God is testing you. It creates this perfect loop where no matter what happens in the real world, good or bad, it just confirms the central story. There's no event that could ever disprove it. All right, so where does all of this leave us? We've walked through Spinoza's 3 steps. Let's pull it all together now and get to the final conclusion, the big takeaway from his investigation. So in the end, Spinoza's conclusion isn't really about tearing something down. It's about changing where we direct our awe. He's asking us to stop marveling at the idea of divine favoritism, and instead to marvel at the sheer, profound resilience of human beings, to be amazed not by a God's choice, but by our incredible creative genius for inventing stories so powerful they can hold a people together against impossible odds. But, and this is a really important but, Spinoza also leaves us with a very sharp warning, because an idea like this has a dark side. The very same story that works as a lifeline, helping a group survive, can all too easily be flipped and turned into a weapon. The myth of survival can become the justification for supremacy. The story that keeps your people safe can be used to dominate and exclude others. And suddenly, this isn't just about ancient history or one religion anymore. This question blows right past all that and lands squarely in our laps, today. Why do we, as human beings, do this? Why do all of our cultures, our nations, our groups seem to craft these stories of our own exceptionalism? What is this deep, deep need we have to believe that we're special, that we have some kind of manifest destiny? Spinoza had the courage to ask that question about his own people, and it's a question that's just as urgent and maybe even more uncomfortable for all of us today.